Just wait a few seconds for people to come on and join me. I'm really looking forward to this. I've been so thankful for all the other live chats. Well, the other two that I've done, this being the third one, and just so grateful to everyone who's just taken the time to join in and to show up. And I really hope that you're getting something out of it. Hey, Phyllis, thanks for joining. But anyway, I've just been super excited about starting this Facebook Live every 2 weeks. I've been doing it on Wednesdays every 2 weeks, and I hope that y'all are getting a lot out of it. So far, I've been coming with a bit of prepared content that I've been coming up with and hoping to share it and thinking that it's beneficial to those who are joining. Hey, Shanda. And but again, if anyone has any suggestions that for topics in the future or questions that they want me to address on Facebook Live, comment in today's or send me a message on Facebook, just whatever, however you want to communicate with me, I would love to hear from you. And my setting is a little bit different today, but I'm still at Shanda's house. She's actually, I'm grateful she joined in, but she's actually downstairs in the office where I have been. And she had a work presentation that she needed to work late on tonight. So I found a little cozy space up in her master bedroom, actually. And I kind of like the background with these curtains. So anyway, saying I'm still at her house and I don't have her right next to me as my assistant as she has been the last few times, but having those first two under my belt, I'm sure we're going to fare just fine tonight. But anyway, I guess we can just go ahead and get started, and I'm sure others will join as we go. But today, what I wanted to share with y'all today, well, let me just take a step back in case anyone is joining in later that doesn't know who I am. My name is Shanna Covey, and I am a mindset coach who uses spiritual principles to help myself and others navigate through life in the most empowering and joyful way possible. And so for what I have prepared for tonight is I wanted to go into helping to discover the desires. Hey, Emily, helping to discover the desires of your heart, or another way of saying it is to help discover your purpose. And then once we have discovered our purpose, how do we stay motivated and inspired to pursue it, to bring it to life? Because just because we discover it, there's still challenges that lie ahead. And the true goal to really excavate our soul and bring that into our life is to be able to first discover it and then to stay motivated in bringing it to life. And then the third thing I just wanted to touch on is just the place an emphasis on how important it is to be interested and excited about your life. Hey, Ricardo, thank you. You rock on too, partner. So I shared a couple of things on Facebook over the last few days that I'm probably just going to expand on here. But one of them is just this relationship with purpose. For me, I actually have quite a, oh, Kurt's on there too. Hey, Kurt. I actually have quite a twisted relationship with purpose in the sense that when I first tried to discover it, it wasn't super easy for me to discover. I wasn't one of those people who just knew what I was passionate about or knew what I was placed on this earth to do or just immediately knew what the desires of my heart are. So, but I was exposed to people who were preaching it as if it was this elusive savior. It was this, to me, it was, it looked like it was the key to becoming fully engaged in life and feeling alive and feeling, and just the key to happiness. So the idea of not knowing my purpose, but then hearing people preach that, hey, that's the answer to find your purpose, discover your passion, and go and do that, and that is the key. It felt like this completely elusive savior. But I wasn't going to go out without trying to figure it out. I just was frustrated that these other people seemed to either have stories of having stumbled upon it in some part of their journey, or they just knew it. But for me, it wasn't that way. It wasn't that way at all. But one of the biggest difference, I don't think I'm alone in this. I actually think there is probably a large majority of people who probably feel the same as me. They're probably hearing the people that tend to be on stage and tend to be speaking about it, or that are preaching purpose and preaching passion, are usually those that have just maybe known it their whole lives or have some story where it became known to them in this really recognizable way. But I'm here to share that you can still figure it out. And for me, one of the main differences that I think that I did that I don't know that a lot of other people do is I started to engage my curiosity. And what I mean by that is I started to pursue things that were of interest to me, and I didn't know on this side of it if it was my purpose or if I was passionate about it, because as I've shared the statement before, I think this is a great statement, which is one that Marie Forleo says, and she says, clarity comes through engagement. And so that's what I mean by engage our curiosities. That's where it starts, that curiosity or that interest. You may not know if it's a passion at this point in time, but it's a curiosity. It's some layer of a desire of your heart that's speaking to you. It's saying, hey, come check this out. Come look into this. And so that's where I started. And one of the first things that I did is I took an extended trip. I took my first extended trip out of the country to Costa Rica, and I was going to learn Spanish. So on this side of it, I had no idea if there was purpose in it. I just knew that it was something I was curious about. Actually, my old college roommate, this would at the time of me going, her going had actually occurred maybe 6-8 years prior to that. She had done something similar, so that's where the seed was planted. And I thought, wow, like that's something that interests me on multiple levels. One, it was going long term into another country, and then two, learning another language. And it just happened that for me, I was drawn to learn Spanish, and I was drawn to go to Costa Rica. So I went, and I lived with homestay family. So that on this side of it it's kind of scary too, because you don't know the environment, and the families have been vetted, so that there's that safe. It feels safe to do it, but it's still outside of your comfort zone. So you're still taking this step in this new direction, and it turned out to be really wonderful for me. I really loved the experience. I stayed with 2 different families and just adored them, and I also just adored the experience of doing these extended trips. And again, I didn't come back having found my purpose or known it. I just followed a curiosity and allowed it just to be that. But within a couple of years, I ended up going to Guatemala a couple of years later in a different scenario, where that time I was going to volunteer as a teacher in an indigenous community. So I did feel that level of service, which is a lot of time, that's where purpose comes from is whenever you feel engaged from a service perspective. And I felt that. And then the Spanish lessons were also feeding into that experience. And so these things were just kind of building on top of each other, where you're discovering one curiosity, and it's leading to another, and they are blending together. Now, they don't always blend together, but that is part of engaging in your curiosities. It's a sifting process to see what sticks and what doesn't, or what evolves to reveal another layer of a desire of your heart, and to show you where that can take you. So for me, I went to Guatemala. I stayed almost a year, and it was one of the best years of my life. So much so that I thought that maybe I had actually landed on my long-term purpose or my mission in life. And I thought, that's what it is. That's what I'm supposed to do. But again, upon engaging further and with some more time, I gained more insights, and I actually learned that helping in the developing world and traveling to Spanish-speaking countries would be a long-term passion of mine, but I wouldn't be involved in the day-to-day roles of like being a teacher in a classroom. I started to learn just through a more exploration that wasn't it for me, but it didn't mean that I didn't learn something and that I didn't morph into something else. And so that's what I'm trying to encourage, is that engage in your curiosity so that you can start to unravel the desires of your heart. And to me, your own heart is your own blueprint, and you just follow what resonates, and that's what makes it exciting, because there isn't a blueprint that you can follow, and because you're following your own unique curiosities and your own unique interests, it's just going to reveal this really beautiful, unique, whatever it is that your desires of your heart looks like. And so from Guatemala, I mean, everything, sometimes it morphs into something else, and sometimes it looks like completely left turns, because from Guatemala, that's what I ended up writing a book and starting a blog and doing a little speaking, and then now here doing this Facebook Live and sharing sharing spiritual tools and insights that help people navigate through life. So I mean, it looks like a left turn, but for me, it was all through engagement and all through engaging my curiosities. Now, one thing that I recently was realizing is that just a few years ago, when I was first sharing the story of how I started to share spiritual insights, I was telling the story as if every time I tried to pursue something and discovered that I was taking another turn, I thought it was a mistake. Like, oh, I leaned my ladder against one roof and climbed up it and looked over and said, oh no, this isn't it. And then I climbed back down and put it on another one and climbed back up. But that was really an incorrect way to see it. And I'm really glad that I had the insight to see that, none of it was a mistake. All of it was an unfolding, and all of it is a learning. And so that is what I want to, that's what I want to encourage all of you to do. And just to, I don't know, like, where are you? Are you engaging your curiosities? And again, it doesn't have to completely disrupt your life. You can do it to whatever level you're comfortable with. I mean, mine was like big in the sense that I moved to a different place and committed to staying there for a length of time. Well, yours, that may not feel right to you, so you just have to see what feels right. And engaging your curiosities can be like sticking your toe in the water. You don't have to dive in head first. You just like slowly check it out. But if it feels good, then you keep going further and discovering more and more and more. And so, and that was one of the first things that I want to talk about, is just help encourage you to engage in your curiosities, because you can't think your way to these knowings. You can't think your way, or at least I couldn't think my way into knowing my purpose or knowing my passion, being on the side of not knowing it. You can't just like have like look at something and have a list of things that you have never tried and never engaged in and think, yeah, maybe, and then start drawing these stories and these conclusions as to either why it will work or why it won't work as it relates to being purposeful or being something that you're passionate about. So you have to engage. Like, don't try to think your way into it. Just engage to whatever level you can, and allow the insights to unfold, because they will unfold. I would say that an example of someone, I have one of my best friends is someone who really knows the desires of her heart, and it was very clear to her, that she was going to go be in service, and she believed, as my friend Lindsay, that she believed like she was supposed to either work with kids in the developing world. And even her having had that clarity and knowing what she wanted to pursue, it still continues to morph and shape into other things. So I say it's for both sides of it. If you know the desires and you're very clear on them, there's still that engagement still it's gonna help shape it even further and help you discover aspects of it that are gonna surprise you. And for her, she went in more to a business side of things, whereas first she thought it was gonna be only nonprofit. So it continues to morph. And the second thing that I wanted to talk about is, okay, so once you're ready to discover, you've done things and you think you've got it narrowed down to, this is my purpose, or this is my purpose for this season of my life. That's another thing I like to say, because when I look back on the different things that I've done, I feel like definitely Guatemala was my purpose for that season of my life. This is my purpose for this season of my life. But I don't know if this is it for the long haul, or if it's going to morph into something else, if it's going to be another left turn, but I'm not worried about that. I'm just okay. I'm completely comfortable with this is in this season of my life. This is what I feel I'm supposed to be doing. This is what I'm pursuing, and this is what I'm discovering. And so then once you feel like you have it in sights, either the curiosity that you're pursuing, or it's more concrete into a purpose that you're pursuing in this moment. Next thing I wanted to talk about is how to stay motivated to pursue those desires of your heart, such that you bring them into life. Because right now that I can see that last week I was sharing that that I'm taking this online course to help discover how best to share content, or share like just what I'm doing right here, but to share it in the most effective way possible. And of course, anytime you purchase a course, and they're going to want to give you all they've got, and so it feels like a fire hydrant of information that is coming at you. And yeah, you're happy that you're getting so much for what you paid for, but sometimes it can be overwhelming. And so when I was going through the course, I was kind of getting overwhelmed, like, oh my gosh, I have to master this skill and this skill and this skill and this skill. And I could feel kind of like little stories starting to be created around it, like, oh, I'm not in a position to apply this, and oh my gosh, because I'm not in a position to apply it, I might not be able to move forward in a certain way. And then I was watching another video and it was all on a technical aspect of things, and I could feel my brain started to go into mush as they're talking about, the behind the scenes stuff. And finally I got a hold of my mind, because it was sort of like, it didn't do a full spiral. I'm just saying that I could feel these stories being created. I noticed them, and I started just to think like, hey, wait, what am I really committed to? I'm committed to bringing these desires to life, because I feel like that's my soul's work, and I feel like the goal of life is to become a crystallized expression of our soul, and that starts by listening to the desires of our heart and by discovering them. So if that's my goal and the alternative is just simply not to do it, then no, I'm on board with this. These processes can be learned, and they're not rocket science. Like, once they're understood, that's fine. It just happens to be new information, and my brain was just going into a little bit of resistance. And that happens. We go into resistance. But I think that the best thing that we can do is to continuously come back to the choice between either letting that resistance go and recommitting to moving forward on bringing these desires to life, or then what's the alternative? We walk away and we remain stagnant, and that alternative to me is just boring. Like, it's just, there's the juice of life